Welcome to the Andy Staples Show. We are back in our normal environments. I just got back from Atlanta from SEC Media Days. It was a whirlwind of fun and frivolity. No, Ari, everybody made the pledge to be super boring at SEC Media Days.
Yeah, except you and your svelte maroon blazer, pal.
Hell yeah.
Looking real. I showed that to Britt, and she was like, wow.
I've never been able to buy off the rack before. The story behind that one, the maroon blazer, is
that's a Nick Saban blazer.
I had to do something. There was something at the kids' school, and I had to dress up for it. And I realized none of my suit jackets fit me anymore. And my wife's like, "Go get something from the mall." And I'm like, "I can't do that. I've never been able to fit anything off the rack." She's like, "You probably will now, so try it." And I did, and just lucked into one that was actually on sale for $51.
You got that for $51?
$51. That's right.
Wow.
And didn't pay a cent to alter it, which is normally another big part of the cost. Just dumb luck that the sleeves were the right length, the gut was right.
Well, can you give us the store, or is that
Express?
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, nothing fancy about it, but it looks right. And I will tell you, what I'm learning is you don't have to spend a lot of money on clothes if
you're skinny.
If you put a better body in the clothes. Like,
yeah. Also, it's crazy how good non-expensive clothes look when you have a good body.
Well, it's amazing because, you know, like before, like I said, I couldn't buy off the rack, so it was pretty expensive if I wanted just a navy blazer. And
yeah,
we don't have to wear suits to work every day, but you got to have something you can wear for a dressy occasion, or if you got to go on TV. And that could get expensive when you couldn't just buy something and have it altered. So I was
my favorite comment about it, other than Britt sweating when she was looking at you, was the person saying, "Well, he couldn't wear a blue or an orange blazer because people would assume that he's a Florida homer." And I was just picturing you in a bright orange blazer, and I think we need to get you one.
Well, that may be a bet right there.
Yeah, and you have to wear it at next year's SEC Media Days.
If I wasn't the coach at Tennessee or Texas, well, those are actually fairly unique oranges. The Tennessee orange is the color of the daisies that grew on the hill, and Texas is obviously burnt orange. So if I wasn't the coach at Florida or Syracuse or a school that had a traditional, I guess Auburn would work, a school that had a traditional orange in its color pattern, I just don't know when you would ever wear that orange blazer. That just doesn't work. Orange, like the blue, of course. Now, royal blue, like Florida's blue, I don't know. That's a little strong too. Like the navy blue that Auburn has, that's perfect.
There are some pretty handsome men wearing orange blazers that are making it work. I bet you could make it work.
I
was just picturing, because I'm looking at I did type in orange blazer into Google Images, and it's 85% female blazers, but the 15% male blazers are sharp. And I think I remember in my brain, and maybe I'm making it up in my brain, but there is one of Lane Kiffin wearing one when he was the head coach at Tennessee, and I think he looked sharp. So,
and Derek Dooley had the orange pants. Those were sweet.
Yeah. So, you know, you got to have some wardrobe goals, but I just was laughing thinking about you just showing up in a bright. It was like the Dumb and Dumber suit jacket.
Yes. But you need the ruffle shirt to go with that.
And so who would you be slapping canes with on the way into Atlanta?
You, of course.
It'd be me, right? I got to get a baby blue one, and we'll just maybe next year. Next year in Israel.
We should do that for next year for SEC, because that would liven it up. Because SEC Media Days, like Nick Saban told us going into his interview session, I'm going to try not to make any news, and he succeeded.
Well, that's probably just a lesson learned in the immediate future.
Well, that's what you and I need to go together and just make our own fun. Like we will be the party, and we will go down Radio Row in tandem in our orange and baby blue suits and be like, listen, we are guests for your radio show, for your podcast. What do you need?
We're here to mess things up, and then you fist pump, and then we go in separate directions. We could be the Step Brothers and the Dumb and Dumber friends in the same media event.
100% could. But you know who could have worn an orange blazer today, and it would have matched his vibe coming in super hot? That's Bryan Harsin. This is how Bryan Harsin led off his SEC Media Days appearance. And note, usually the last day is super boring. And after 3 very boring days, I figured it'd be even worse. But no, Bryan Harsin made the whole trip worth it.
There was an inquiry. It was uncomfortable. It was unfounded. And it presented an opportunity for people to, personally attack me, my family, and also our program. And it didn't work. So right now, our focus is on moving forward. And what came out of that inquiry were a lot of positive. There was a silver lining in all of this, because what I saw from our players and our coaches was leadership opportunities for them to step up, which is exactly what they did.
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
You want to fire me, you're going to pay me $18 million.
Yeah, I mean, good for him. What would you have done? I would have done the same thing.
I would have done that, and I am so, I am rooting for him so much. And this is the column that I wrote, because I think if you have no dog in the hunt in this situation, you are rooting for Bryan Harsin to just double middle finger those people that tried to oust him and tried to smear him. And given the situation, you kind of want him to be like Peter in Office Space. Play damn it feels good to be a gangsta, come in, dismantle all the cubicles, gut a fish at your desk.
Fish on your desk. Yeah. I think it's crazy, because it's like such a double-edged sword here, because on one hand, you want him to go out and just rock shit and win a bunch of games and stuff. And, at the same time, if he does that, then you're rewarding the people that were, kind of behind that whole thing.
Right.
So it's what do you want?
They crave.
But at the same time too, it's almost like you want him to fail, because then the people that were in that position have to pay him up, and they don't get the beautiful winning program that they deserve. So, or that they think they deserve. So,
but they might, if they have to pay him up, they might luck into another good coach. That's the thing. It's Auburn. And part of this is the fault of Alan Green, the athletic director who hired Bryan Harsin, who clearly didn't understand the job he was hiring for, because when the person says, "Hey, I'm gonna out-evaluate, out-develop Nick Saban and Kirby Smart," that's when you walk out and you're right. Nice meeting you, bye. But he hired him, and that happened. And if I'm Bryan Harsin, I'm not going to turn the job down.
And if you remember, Andy, when we did the coaching rankings a few months ago with Auburn on the podcast, I put Auburn last in the SEC just to prove a point that I just can't stand what happened to him. I feel bad for him. I want him to prosper. And the fact of the matter is, and I said it before, is it's not his fault you hired him. What did you think he was going to do? This was your mess up. Mm-hmm. And then to torpedo him after you messed up in order to try to get out of it. And then for it not to work, you've put your program that you supposedly love so much in a ton of danger, because their recruiting results have suffered as a result of it, because nobody expects him to be the coach a year from now. And the program in general just is in a much worse position. So it's just a mess, man. Let
me ask you this, Ari. If you're an Auburn fan, because I said if you don't have a dog in the hunt, you're definitely rooting for Bryan Harsin in this situation.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I don't have a dog in the hunt. And
he is the wronged person in this situation.
Yes.
But if you're an Auburn fan, what do you want to happen? Because if Bryan Harsin wins enough games to keep his job,
which is how many?
I think it probably has to be quite a few. And given that schedule, it's almost
their schedule is brutal.
Yes,
what is quite a few though? Because I think 8 would be quite a few on that schedule.
I think 8 would be. I don't think 8's enough, because they've already put him behind the 8 ball.
But if he wins 8 games on that schedule, I think that would keep him in a normal situation. In a semi-normal functional scenario,
and knowing how he feels about recruiting.
That's the danger, man. It's how much, and I'm always the one that everybody hates in the podcast reviews for talking about recruiting in this light. But how much do you weigh recruiting rankings when you're making coaching decisions? I think it's really, really important factor. And I've said this before, and I don't want to shout out Ralph Russo 2 weeks in a row, but he thinks it's insane when I say I'd rather lose 2 or 3 more games and have a better recruiting class than win 8 or 9 games and have a bad one.
This is a program that expects to compete for SEC titles.
So in this case, that 9 wins,
you got to do both.
Yeah, no, but 9 wins for them is no different than 6 or 7 wins because it's a failure of a season, right? Like, I think that people think that a 9-win season is like something to hang your hat on. So if
that gets coaches fired at these types of schools.
At this type of school, that you need to actually do both, like you said. But when you say things like win enough games to keep his job, I mean, do you mean like competing to win 10. The SEC?
I mean like 10.
So, this is a team that's going to compete for the SEC and maybe lose to Bama at the end of the year.
It's not.
No, but that's what they have to be to keep his job.
Yes.
So basically, he's probably just torpedoing the SEC media days because he knows the score, we know the score,
sure.
And it's like not even like a Jim Harbaugh scenario, because like last year coming into it, it's like Jim Harbaugh better do this or he's going to be in big trouble. And it's like he went out and did it, but like Jim Harbaugh doing what he did wasn't like legitimately impossible. Like this is actually impossible.
It is pretty much. Now they have 5 home games to start the season, which is pretty crazy. 2 of those are Penn State and LSU though. So if you got to win one of those. You don't want to be 3-2 coming out of that, because then it gets very hairy, because you're on the road. You're dealing with Ole Miss and Georgia and Mississippi State away. You've got Texas A&M at home. I believe. Oh, you have Arkansas in that stretch, I believe, too. Like it gets real after that. So we'll probably have an idea by late October where they're sitting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we'll probably have a better idea, sooner than that, to be honest. I think that Penn State game comes up real fast on that schedule, and it'll be very interesting to see.
Well, you should beat Penn State this year if you're pretty good, because as you said, this is the year to get Penn State. Like you probably not going to want to see them next year or the year after that.
That's what I'm saying. Like they can win these games, and I don't know. It is kind of like a very unique scenario. Like I don't know that there's another one that I can even point to draw parallels to. The position that he's in, that is making it impossible for him to recruit. And then you want to fire him for a recruiting class that he probably can't do any better at because of the situation that he was put in.
Right. You've kneecapped him. And
it's like cutting him off at the knees and getting mad at him because he can't run a 40. Like it doesn't make any sense. So
exactly.
I feel for him, and I wonder when he moves on from Auburn, when that inevitably happens, if he can get another job that's more suited for his skill set and land back on his feet, because I think he's a good coach.
I think if he handles this well, and the players play hard for him, and talking to the player, like John Samuel Schenker and Derek Hall, 2 of the 3 they brought, and Tank Bigsby was complimentary as well. But John Samuel Schenker and Derek Hall went to the president when all that was going on, and we're like, there was a group of them, and they were in that group, and they were like, listen, guys, this is ridiculous. This is a good man. He's a good coach. He treats us well. Stop this. And so that's where they will play hard for him. And I think that will help him with whatever comes next.
Yeah. So what grade do you give him for SEC Media Day?
Oh, I give him, well,
you give him a 10?
I give him a 10. Yes. I have to, because if I'm grading on the curve of everybody else, like it started and ended. Well, it didn't end. Jimbo Fisher was the last guy to talk, and he and Josh Heupel, neither of them had much to say. But it started with Greg Sankey with a lot of "I told you so's" to his fellow commissioners, and then it did close out on a high note with Bryan Harsin. Summer is here, and we're spending more time outside and less time in the kitchen. You don't want to go to the grocery store. That's going to cut into your pool time. You also don't want to be stuck cutting vegetables because some other meal delivery service made you cook it yourself. What you need is Freshly. Don't waste your time inside shopping. Don't waste your time cooking. Take advantage of the good weather and Freshly's summer sale, and now you can get $125 off your first 5 orders. Other meal delivery options make you do all the work of prepping and cooking. Freshly comes ready to heat and eat in 3 minutes or less. Designed by nutritionists, prepared by chefs, then delivered right to your door. They've got it all. They've got chicken cordon bleu, wild-caught fish cake, creamy mushroom risotto, Thai green curry, you name it, they got it. Everything I just mentioned, by the way, all that's gluten-free, because that's what we have to get in our house. My wife has celiac. We don't want to worry that something's going to be contaminated. And with Freshly, we don't have to. They send it, and we don't have to worry about it. They always come through in a pinch too, because the kids just love it. You rip it open, you heat it up, they're going to eat it up. Freshly is affordable and convenient, so skip the grocery shopping and the dirty dishes. Your meals arrive cooked and fresh every week. New meals are added weekly, so you're never stuck eating the same thing over and over. And now you can try Freshly for $125 off your first 5 orders. Make summer dinner stress-free with Freshly. Right now, you can get $125 across your first 5 orders at freshly.com/Andy22. That's $125 off across your first 5 orders. Freshly.com/Andy22. That's freshly.com/Andy22. But speaking of the fellow commissioners, we haven't had a chance to talk since Jim Phillips got up at ACC Media Days and began talking about gated communities and HOAs and all manner of, I don't know exactly what he was saying, but he did say all options were on the table for the ACC, which I'm not sure what those are. You heard about the potential partnership with the Pac-12, which still I can't quite wrap my brain around what those two would do together, but maybe. And he talks about different revenue generation strategy. I need to see something specific, because all of it sounded very vague and general.
Yeah, when you try to piece it together, just like, how does that work?
Well,
what does that even look like, an ACC Pac-12 partnership?
Well, the one that was floated out there earlier was like, you fold the Pac-12 network, you put Pac-12 games on the ACC network, so you cause that to get picked up by cable systems out west and put on their, expanded basics, and you jack up the subscription fee in the footprint of wherever the teams are. So you could do that in Seattle, and you could do it in Portland, and you could do it in the Bay Area. So like, I get how that works and how there's some money in that. But how do you split the money? Do you give that money to the ACC because you're using their platform to do it? Or does that money go to the Pac-12 schools? Because if it does, the ACC schools are like, hey, that's our network. What are you doing? So that doesn't make any sense. But now the one that does make sense.
But you're also kind of banking on Oregon and Washington buoy that whole thing too, right? Because if you take those two out of the equation, then like you don't even have a
you don't
really have any legs to stand on.
Big 12, Pac-12 discussion that we've had a billion times already, and
right,
we don't need to have it again. Eventually, that's going to come to a head. Either the Pac-12 schools will decide they want to just stay together as 10 and see what happens, and maybe Oregon and Washington will leave, and maybe they won't, or one of them, 2 of them panic, join the Big 12, and then the Big 12 takes what it wants.
Right.
That's sort of the 2 options at this point. But with the ACC, the one thing I have heard, and I heard this before Jim Phillips talked at ACC Media, this was something I heard from somebody at one of the schools. They have talked about an uneven revenue distribution where the schools that are more successful get more money. And this is the Clemsons, Florida State, when Florida State was a national title contender type team. If Miami were to become a national title contender, back when Virginia Tech was winning the league all the time, that type of success where they would get an outsized share compared to everybody else. But I will say
so kind of like when you have a roommate and there's a master bedroom and a regular bedroom, that the roommate with the master bedroom has to pay more.
That's exactly right. You get the bedroom with the bathroom, and the other 2 roommates have to share the bathroom. So Wake Forest and Duke, you're sharing a bathroom. Clemson, you get your own bathroom.
Clemson's got the master with the walk-in closet.
I love how Jim Phillips talks gated communities, and we've reduced it to like sharing a crappy apartment.
I've had a dispute about that in the past with a friend.
Who among us hasn't?
Yeah, back in those days of making a cool 23 grand a year, trying to make it in journalism. What are you going to do?
In college, I went from a share the bathroom to the following year, I got my own bathroom.
There is nothing more important, like, to me than having my own bathroom.
I'm not surprised by that.
Because the dorm bathroom situation was not for me.
Oh, the dorm bathroom was nasty, period.
And I was lucky enough to be in the dorm that was right across the hallway from that bathroom. So I had the shortest walk from bathroom to room.
But you, like me, went to college in a less enlightened time when it was, this is the boys' room and this is the girls' room. There were no co-ed bathrooms in the dorms.
No, our halls were split, but like,
yeah, ours were too.
Yeah, so you could live on the same floor as girls, but the girls had their own bathrooms,
their
own
floor.
Oh, you could live on the same floor, but there were like double doors and a hallway that would split them. So like,
gotcha.
I
can't even imagine now where they have the co-ed ones. All manner of tomfoolery must go on in those things.
Yeah, my first college fling was with a girl that lived right down the hallway, across the other double doors. No. But I learned a lot of life lessons about that.
Good to know.
Yeah, not physical lessons. I just mean like lessons about like how close you want to live to a girl that you might not work out with and stuff.
This is true.
And then later in life, when I was 26 years old, I had a crush on another girl who lived in an apartment complex, or lived in my apartment complex, coincidentally, and I steered clear of it because I learned my lesson.
There you go.
Because you don't want to come home every single day and be nervous to bump into somebody every time you come home. Your home is your safe space.
Your bathroom is your safe space, apparently.
Yeah. We really veered off the bathroom thing, but like, you know the old saying, don't shit where you eat, right?
That's exactly right. That's very romantic, Ari. So
we're talking about bathrooms.
We definitely
and
are.
I actually did eat very closely to the bathroom in that scenario because I was right across the hallway.
It was a crappy apartment. Yes.
Yeah, it was a dorm. Yeah. But then at U of A, like U of A had a lot of really, and I don't know what it's like now. I'm sure it's even better, but at U of A, we could live 2 or 3 miles away from campus, but they had apartments that were set up, and I had a roommate who I lived with all 4 years of college, and we had our own rooms and bathrooms, both of us in the same apartment in college.
Yeah. No, Gainesville's the same way. Mostly people live in the dorms as freshmen.
And then you move out. Yeah.
You run as fast as you can to the apartment complexes, which most of them were pretty nice. And back then were very reasonably priced. So you could get something pretty nice.
Yeah. And at U of A, they had like big pools and stuff. It was like a really nice complex.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was it got, I'm sure it was the same thing in Gainesville.
The pool parties were legendary, but I don't know how legendary the pool parties are in the ACC. Because I think Clemson definitely wants its own bathroom. Florida State definitely wants its own bathroom. Miami wants its own bathroom.
But could you fluctuate it? Could you come up with a plan where, because it's not about how good you are on the field, right? It's about how many people watch your games.
Correct. But what I was going to say about this before we went into the toilet is other leagues have done this before, and it always causes problems. Like the Big 12 had huge problems when it had uneven revenue distribution. The Pac-10 had uneven revenue distribution, and actually evening it out is what ticked off USC because they were used to getting more, and then they were mad. And then
the thing that makes it tricky too is that, what people are entitled to, I think, is fair. Like if you have certain tentpole programs that routinely, regardless of how good they are on the field that given year, draw the most eyeballs, then you would think that they would be more entitled to a larger portion of that revenue, right? I think that's a fair statement.
Well, and
what
like
you're doing though, at the same time, Andy, is you're creating a larger gap between them and the other teams that play in the same conference because they don't have as much money to spend on resources in order to change that.
And you're making them want to be in a league that everybody seems to get along.
And you don't want your roommate to go apartment hunting.
Yes.
When you are depending on them to pay their portion of the rent.
Who do you think would be the most difficult roommates? I don't think we do like fan bases. I think we do like head coaches. Like
the most difficult
do you think Pat Narduzzi and Jeff Hafley would get along if they had to share a bathroom?
Oh, you mean we're coming up with 2?
In the ACC. Like
in the
bathroom
ACC.
sharing.
I was thinking about like Mike Leach like boiling his socks in the living room.
Oh yeah,
but he's in the SEC, so I don't know. Let me look at the ACC coaches just so I have them all in front of me, and then we'll make some funniness.
Pat Narduzzi and Dino Babers, I think, would have problems living together.
I'm looking at the list right now. What about Dabo Sweeney and Mario Cristobal?
They kill each other. They would 100% kill each other. Like Mario, I think probably has to have.
Well, let me just ask you it this way. Which, if you if you were looking for a roommate and you had to pick one ACC
Dave
coach,
Clawson. Dave Clawson.
Who would be your least favorite person to live with?
Well, okay.
Without being mean, it's just you might not mesh with his personality.
I'll start with it. The two I think I get along with the best as roommates are either Dave Clawson or Tony Elliott. I think I get along very well with either one of them.
Well, those guys are the most mild-mannered guys in the conference.
They're super chill. They're both really smart, like good conversationalists. Like they probably have wide, varied interests. They'd be fun to talk to.
Pat Narduzzi, I feel like, would get mad at you for eating his groceries.
I think he'd get mad for a lot of different things, but then he'd also eat your groceries.
Yeah.
Cristobal, I think if you didn't like, I envision him as a neat freak who, if you are a little bit sloppy, he's going to make your life a living hell.
Yeah. I feel like Brent Pry would want to go to the gym too much, and he would actually always want you to come along with him.
I'm okay with that. I'm good with that roommate.
Well, now in your new lifestyle, but
I kind of had that in college though. I had two different. My freshman year, I lived in two different dorm rooms. I had a triple, in that was a very tiny room where there were 3 people, and so naturally, I put myself on a list to get out of that as quickly as possible. And so 2 months later, they moved me across the quad to a different dorm where I was in a double.
So did you have randos though? That first situation?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, but the guys I lived with in the triple were both really cool. Like this dude from Daytona Beach who was learning Japanese and wound up doing all kinds of business in Japan. And then a 16-year-old boy genius from, I can't remember where he was from.
Did you?
But
like
he was very nice. They were both very nice. They were cool. One was super outgoing. The boy genius, like I'd have been terrified at 16 in college as well. He was at the library most of the time, but both very nice people. I then get moved.
The boy genius, like usually you would think social awkwardness would come along with that.
He wasn't super awkward. He was a nice kid. He was very about his business. Like he was going to get some stuff done in the classroom.
I wonder where he's at professionally right now.
I'm sure he's very, very successful. But now the guy I got moved in with, he was so the girl I dated the first 2 years of college actually lived on a different floor in the dorm I got moved into. And I remember her telling me before I moved, she's like, you know, there's this guy on the floor that you're moving to. We just call him the sup you work out guy. Because the first 2 weeks of school, he just walked up to everybody in the dorm and was like, sup, you work out.
And then did you go to the gym with him ever?
It was him. That's who I got paired up with. Well, I was on the football team, so I had a gym to go to.
Yeah. So, I was gonna say your freshman year, I don't think you needed help getting to the gym.
Right. I had a gym I was required to go to. Well, I'm sorry, it's voluntary. But no, but the funny part was he never actually worked out. He just asked people if he did.
That's bizarre.
It was. It's fascinating.
I think the last person I would want to live with in the ACC is Dabo Swinney. I just don't think I could match his speed all day.
His energy is high. Like he's not cutting it. Because like you have the coaches who are like, juice, I'm always bringing the juice. All that's fake. Like Dabo's isn't fake. Like he is that person all day.
Dabo is the kind of guy that would like you be just eating Cheerios at the table and he'd like walk out in a bright pink outfit, you know, like he did the other day for breast cancer awareness. You know,
I was gonna say it was the ladies' clinic and it was for breast cancer awareness.
Yeah, no, I know, but what I'm saying,
knocking the pink. Plus,
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying like that would be like he comes out and it's like, oh, that's what we're doing today, and then like another day he'd be wearing something else, and then another time you'd be just trying to mind your own business in the living room at Thursday at midnight, and he'd sit down and like want to have a really deep conversation about something you didn't want to talk about.
Some of his players and his wife have told me that his playlist is something. It's basically jock jams. Like his playlist is stuck in 1994.
Yeah, it's like that. Would you rather that I think I asked you this before. Would you rather pay? Well, it's kind of like that. It's
okay.
How much money would you pay on a month to avoid every single time you hear music for the rest of your life in any realm or scenario? Whether you be elevator music, movie theme music, any type of music anywhere is, hey, now you're an all-star. That's what you hear for the rest of your life.
Everywhere you go,
If you're in an
somebody
elevator,
told me the world.
yes. And if you're in an elevator and I hear you hear, hey now, you're an all-star. If you're watching an action movie and the big action scenes happening and there's any type of music, everyone hears all the rumbling and the music and everything, and you hear, hey now, you're an all-star. Would you pay $5,000 a month for the rest of your life, or would you just go absolutely berserk and have your brain bleed out of your ears?
I think I'd pay up.
I don't think there's an amount of money that if I could that I would pay.
This is the first one of your hypotheticals where I've ended up with less money because
Yeah,
I would go insane within 48 hours.
Because I also think that would be the most annoying song in the history of the world to have to hear every day.
No. There is one more annoying. And I said, hi, yeah.
Your voice just cracked, bro.
Yeah. I said, hey.
I think I would rather listen to that. Hey, now you're an all-star would get you, man.
What's Up by 4 Non Blondes is the worst song ever made.
I asked somebody, would you rather pay a $2,000 a month tax out of your paychecks every month for the rest of your life, or listen to the Hey Now scenario? And he took the Hey Now, and I don't think he really thought that through.
No, because you're hearing it everywhere. By the way, my wife just walked in as I was singing 4 Non Blondes.
Are you still married?
No. Well, the courthouse isn't open, so hopefully she has some time to cool off.
Yeah.
But
what were we talking about?
We were talking about the ACC.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Speaking of unhappy marriages, here's the thing for Jim Phillips, because I saw Jim Phillips getting roasted, and I don't think that's entirely fair because he's been on the job a year. He didn't negotiate the TV contract he walked into.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and I know I've said this on the show many, many times, but I cannot stress this enough. After Maryland got poached by the Big Ten, the ACC schools craved security. It is the thing they wanted the most. They did not want to have their conference picked apart by various leagues. And so they went to John Swofford and they said, give us security. And John Swofford made a deal to give them security. The problem is the deal that he got them, he got a deal where they brought Notre Dame in all the other sports in the 5 games a year. And then they extended that deal to get the ACC network launched. And that locked them in for 20 years.
Yeah.
But
which by the time when they did it is the definition of security.
Right. It is exactly what they asked for. They didn't say revenue is our number one priority. They said security is our number one priority. And they got security.
Yeah. Which, I don't know if you go back, if you can tell them what happened just now, back when they made that deal, if they would do it again, still would be an interesting thing to kind of.
Well, and look, everything has changed since then. And I understand that. But there were people even 10 years ago saying, so the president of LSU, I think he was talking to the Knight Commission in, I want to say 2011, and said at some point there are only going to be 2 conferences, Fox and ESPN.
Mm-hmm. That was floating around Twitter last week.
Pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this was out of the blue. There were people predicting it. It's just it took a while for our.
Could this television contract theoretically be the thing that saves us from that temporarily?
You know, it might be. It might be because, well, the grant of rights that's attached to it.
Right.
Because if they really can't break it, then there might not be anything the SEC or the Big Ten want still out there. Because I've come around, because at first I thought, okay, maybe they're waiting to see what happens and maybe they'll grab Oregon and Washington. I don't think so. I think they would have already done that if they were going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would have done it with USC and UCLA. So now this can all stop, I think, if the Pac-10 schools just decide to stay together.
Right.
If 1 or 2 of them have ideas, then it's.
And what are the odds that 1 or 2 don't have ideas in this current climate?
I mean, it's hard to not. I think they're waiting to find out what the TV numbers are from ESPN and Fox, and they're going to see. Well, it may just be ESPN, but they'll try to figure out where they stand, and if they can make what they feel like is enough money from that, then they'll probably stay together. But if the numbers come in lower than they want, then I'm guessing there's a few of them they're going to look around.
Right.
I don't know what you do there, because like, do you call the ACC? Because again, I don't see how that works, but the ACC does have some brands that absolutely move the meter.
Right.
And you've got the Notre Dame thing.
Well,
right
the fact
now.
that all those brands are locked in together kind of makes me feel like they're coming at it from a position of strength, because they're not in danger of losing one or two, right? So if they're not in danger of getting picked off, then they can go 100% on the offensive and see if they can add to their conference. It's like if Miami or Florida State or Clemson just upped and left, that would be devastating. It's the exact same scenario of what happened to the Pac-12. And if they're locked in and you can prevent that from happening, I think that's a very interesting scenario that gives them time to operate and make the best move. And it doesn't have to be now or in a year from now, but like, when it becomes time to actually make a move, they can do it from a position of strength, which I think will be a nice little benefit of that security that you were just describing.
Well, that is what Jim Phillips was saying. And his point was that they're number 3 out of 32 Division I conferences, 10 FBS, and then the rest of the FCS. And I guess they're not number 3 right now. As long as Texas and Oklahoma are still in the Big 12 until they leave, the Big 12 is number 3 in revenue. But the ACC could wind up number 3. I think the fear for the ACC is if there's some amalgamation of the Big 12 and the Pac-12 that would surpass what they're going to get, then you get really frustrated if you're the schools that could be coveted by somebody else. But if they can't, then you probably still have the best deal you can get. It's still going to suck though especially if you're a school that recruits against SEC and Big Ten schools regularly, that you got to deal with this. But you kind of know where you are at least, and what you're dealing with. Speaking of getting locked in, Ari, we got to talk about this. Kirby Smart, Georgia head coach, defending national champion head coach, signs a 10-year, $112.5 million deal.
Got to get that 0.5 in there.
Yeah, listen, $500,000 is a lot of money. Let's not.
I know.
Split hairs.
The 0.5 though, this was funny to me.
That's 100 months of not having to hear All-Star for every
think about how many years the rest of his family can go now without having to share a bathroom.
Every generation.
His great grandson is not going to have to share a bathroom.
That's exactly right. So obviously Kirby Smart is one of the most valuable coaches in college football, but let me ask you this, Ari.
That's that James Franklin money.
It's Mel Tucker money. He's getting this because of the money Mel Tucker, Brian Kelly, and Lincoln Riley got.
It's hilarious.
Because he's obviously worth more than them.
Yeah.
Given what he's done. So, but
you shouldn't have 10-year deal or $100 million deal, at least with the current financial system, unless you win a national title. There should be a rule against it.
Like you got to stop at 99.9.
You want to talk about like
capping
NIL?
You can only guarantee 75% of it.
No coach can to have a guaranteed $100 million contract if they haven't won a conference championship. That's Mel Tucker, right? And then James Franklin's won the Big Ten, so maybe you can even say national title. But like that's what you pay your coach when he brings you your school the first national championship since 1980. That's the reward for that.
I mean, I get you want to reward him and you want to make sure he knows that he's appreciated. Where was he going to go?
I don't know. You never know.
That's the part of the bidding against themselves part is what amazes me a lot of and then of course they say, well, there's no money to pay the players, or there's no money to do this, or we're going to have to cut sports. No, you don't have to.